You continue to be walking through.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our December 8th Zoom session.
Hurry up, I have it on. Whoops.
I heard that. Hurry up, we have it on. I got that.
I was talking to my husband.
Uh-huh, I'm hoping. I'm not going to ask about that. That could be kind of embarrassing, got to tell you. Oh, my goodness. So if we let everybody in from the waiting room?
Yeah.
All right, very good. I see a lot of good faces and some really good names. We ready to start?
Take it away.
No.
Okay. Welcome to our December 8th Food for Thought session from the Community Foundation and all of our partners. Today we have Beth Krallis and Jamison Ludgate who are going to talk about social media analytics because 'tis the season to be counting. And we had a lot of questions about analytics throughout our Food for Thoughts. So we're going to have that session go on for hours and hours and hours, or at least maybe 45 minutes, we'll see. We kind of plan until 5 o'clock or so. And we may or may not break into groups. We'll figure it out if we need to. If you don't talk enough, we'll try to break into groups and promote some chat. So I'm Karen Simmons, and I'm President and CEO of the Community Foundation. How about we talk a little bit about our presenting partners to help, who've helped to promote this event to get such a good turnout from the event. So we have the partners page. Look at that. United Way of Southern Chester County. I'm going to start at the end. Carrie Freeman, what are you doing in Southern Chester County? How are you doing for the holidays these days? What's going on? What do our nonprofits need to know, Ms. Freeman?
We're doing fine.
There we go.
The donations are coming in.
And they're going out.
And they're going out. Very good. They come in and they go out.
There you go. Yeah. At the Chester County Community Foundation, I have to tell you that the $3.5 million from the Restore Chester County Fund for the COVID money that we got from the CARES Act and the commissioners, we have officially allocated all $3.5 million as of December 4th. So checks have been sent out, and there's a few more coming out. So you can still apply for grants because we have other sources of funding. But that 3.5 million has been spent by December as the feds wanted. So we didn't give a penny back to the feds. Oops, there you go. So, and we did that in partnership with a lot of the funders on this call, including Southern Chester County, Phoenixville Community Health. Tam, are you there?
I
What's
am.
going on
Yeah,
in
thanks,
Phoenixville,
Karen.
Tamala? Yeah.
There's all kinds of fun stuff going on in Phoenixville. It continues to be a happening place. We're just happening in our homes these days. So happy to be here.
Very good. And then from the southern part of the county, Cheryl, where are you?
Yep, I'm in mushroom country. How are you?
Very good.
Yes, we are very proud to partner with you. We look forward to continuing to do this, and we're excited for today's program. Thank you very much for including us.
And we're going to come up with a new series of topics for the new year as well. So, hey, Julie, we're glad we got that CARES Act funding out so fast. It was always meant to just go right back out to the community. So we're glad the checks were getting out to folks. And thank you for whipping out those proposals so fast to us, too. Our auditors will love that. So as I was saying, I was just looking at the chat. But also for the Food for Thoughts, we'll be doing surveys and just listening more to what folks are asking for in Food for Thoughts. We're obviously going to take a break over Christmas and New Year's, but we'll be back in mid-January. But I hear that in Exton, Laura, you have your sessions lined up for nonprofits who are going to be cooperating with you on that. Where are you, Laura?
Yeah, here I am, Karen. Thank you so much. And thank you all for partnering with all the nonprofits in Chester County. I have appreciated this alliance so much. And in January, we are continuing with our In the Know for NPO series, and it will be virtual for the whole year. There will be no cost either. We are still looking for some sponsors, but in January, on January 15th at 8 a.m., it will be emerging models of collaboration and different insight into that. In April, we're going to be focusing on continuity planning and emergency preparedness. In July, we're doing succession planning. And October, the organizational life cycle. So we're really trying to focus on the theme of Restore, Recovery, and Support Local in 2021.
Great. Thanks to those topics and keeping that rolling. We also have from the Oxford Area Chamber of Commerce. We'll go from the center of the county and down to Oxford. Christine, where are you?
Here.
What's up
Hello,
in
everybody.
Oxford?
Actually, I'm sitting in the wrong spot here.
It's always sunny in Oxford.
You know what? We are a happening little town. We had a great Small Business Saturday for our businesses. Like all of the chambers, you know, our hearts are just breaking for our restaurants. They need the support as our nonprofits. So, you know, I see a lot of familiar faces on the list here, some of our nonprofit members. So we're just very grateful to partner with you on this and help spread the word. So thank you again.
Thanks, Christine, very much so. Is Dan on here from the Greater Westchester Chamber, or did Dan take a break to go shopping? Okay, let's go shopping. So Malcolm, you're back from the Cultural Alliance of Chester County and the
Yes.
bid as well. We're working on a plan, Malcolm. I know you've been out driving out west for the last 2 years, it feels like now, or 2 weeks.
9,000 miles. Yeah.
Oh, good for you. So just so you know, we didn't get to update the Cultural Alliance strategic plan while you were gone, but it's on the docket. So welcome back, Malcolm. We got some planning work to do in the new year to get the arts and culture and historic preservation groups open to the best degree possible and pivoting.
I
Okay.
have recently been asked to sit on an advisory committee for historic preservation and adaptive reuse for the county. So I'm looking forward to working with the county planning department on that. I continue to review the Landscapes 3 and all of the goals of the county. Every time I do that, I get very excited. You know, I'm looking forward to getting past COVID and into some real business and working with all of you throughout the county.
Thank you so much to all of our promotional partners. If I missed anybody, speak now or... Okay, let's talk about social media analytics. This is really cool. I got to say, Beth, Krallis, and Jamison, Ludgate are a really great team to have at the community foundations, because darn it if our board doesn't ask those questions about, well, how can you tell if that social media actually makes a difference? And, you know, what are we paying people for? And can't you just have a student do it for free? It depends is the answer, and let's focus on it. And my gosh, we actually do use our analytics, and Beth Kay and Jamison understand them pretty well. So why don't I turn it over to you, and I'll just ask the stupid questions like I always do. Please feel free to use the chat to ask your questions or break in if you need to, and we'll see what we find, okay? Ready, set, roll.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys all for being here today. I'm Beth Krallis, and thank you for the introduction. And Jamison Ludgate and I are responsible for all things marketing, communications, development, advancement related at the Community Foundation. So we're excited to share a little bit with you today about analytics. Pretty broad topic here that came up for discussion during our last session when we were talking about online event fundraising and things that organizations are doing in light of the pandemic. So I think we'll have a great conversation here today, and you guys are welcome to ask questions as we go along. We've put some room for questions within the program, and as Karen said, please feel free to use the chat. So yeah, let's get started here. So this conversation today is going to be focused on analytics, and we are going to showcase our thoughts on Google Analytics, which have to do with your website, and social media analytics, which have to do with all of the social media platforms that you use. And there's a lot of terms. There's a whole vocabulary out there for measuring analytics. Just things that we use. This is not a comprehensive list is what I'm trying to say. In the resources page at the end of the session, you'll find links to access more analytics terms, but some of the ones I wanted to point out just before we begin, so we're all speaking the same language here, is analytics itself, which is the process for gathering and analyzing data to discover trends, patterns, and links. So that's where we're beginning. We want to use our analytics to measure trends, patterns, and links so your organizations can be successful and can measure your success over time and can adapt and pivot your marketing strategy to increase your success. So take a look at these terms anytime. We'll make sure that you get the presentation afterwards along with a recording of this session. Some of the things to note on this sheet are click-through rates. These are the number of times that a link is clicked by a visitor, something that we measure. Impressions, which is the number of times your content is displayed to others, whether it's clicked or not. That's an important term to measure. Return on investment. This is something where you can measure whether money invested in a tool or a solution or a campaign was successful. This is something that we also measure internally, not on a dollar basis, but just a return on investment of time spent, because there's so much you can do with social media and websites, and so much you can do for free along with paid. And sometimes the return on investment is just a measure of how successful, how engaging was the content versus how much time did we spend building all of the content and artwork and captions, and should we do that again? So now that we're all speaking the same language here, thought we would just begin why do we measure website analytics? And we're going to start with the website stuff, and then we'll get into the social media stuff afterwards. So why do we measure? The reason why, sorry guys, technical difficulties here. We want to track our website analytics so we can see how traffic is driven to our website, to your website, through all the different tools that you're probably already using. So if you're using social media, if you're using email, if you're using print marketing, tracking analytics allows you to see if traffic is coming to your website and how they're getting there. We have been measuring over time to tailor our strategy and grow our audience, build engagement, and achieve some of our goals. So it's important, and we'll get into this later, to think about what your organization wants to achieve. Do you want to raise more money? Do you want to get more people to attend events, participate in your programs? In our case, starting new funds. So measuring these things as part of our strategy helps us make decisions and really see over time what our impact is like. We use various reporting tools. We'll get into it later. So we use Google Data Studio, but there's a lot out there. Even Google Analytics, there's a lot of free ones, there's some paid ones. These reporting tools allow you to share information using different dashboards and graphs and charts. And something cool about this is it's totally customizable. So you can customize the date range you want to explore. You can compare something with a different time period, like this year to date to last year to date. So there's a lot that's customizable that can help your organization to answer the questions that you have. And lastly, I think it's important to note here that this is the Community Foundation strategy, and we have been doing this for a long time, but we're interested in hearing from you guys what you guys are doing too, because we based our strategy on a visit we spent with a former board member. His name is Dave Elderkin. He is on the board of another organization, the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So they are a high impact, high budget organization doing a great job with their Google Analytics and all of their analytics. And we based our strategy to try to emulate them. But we're doing it on a small scale, a low dollar budget with just some paid staff or time. So we're not going to be at the same level as they are. And I think it's important to note for any organizations on here, you can do this at any level. You don't have to start off with the greatest and the best, because this is just a way to measure over time. And you can also grow into it as well. So you don't need to start with the Google Analytics and the social media. Maybe just start somewhere, and then you can grow your campaign and learn over time as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jamison to go over a little more in depth on our ways to work on your website analytics.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Beth. And one more thing to mention about Dave Elderkin. He was just a board member, and he really helped us set up our Google Data Studio originally. So you might have a staff member or a board member or a volunteer or an intern who already has experience with analytics. So feel around, because it can be kind of overwhelming if you haven't had experience with it. So just see if anyone has. But we're going to talk about ways to increase your website analytics. So most importantly is just to make sure your website is running properly, information is updated, the speed is fast enough, the site is secure. So just obviously, I'm sure you're going on your website quite frequently. Just make sure everything looks okay, especially the information being updated. Because if someone goes to your website and they see outdated information, they might not want to pursue a relationship with your organization because they might think you're no longer active or for various other reasons. So try to keep your website up to date. But
Okay,
beyond
Jamison, I have
Yes.
stupid questions. I
Yes.
used to be a cyber geek in 1985, but you know, they did a lot of other things. How do you make sure your speed is fast enough? And can you tell if your site is secure?
Well, there are like tools or you can download to make sure your site is secure, meaning that when someone accesses your site, they won't get that little pop-up that says the site is not secure. Are you sure you want to proceed? Beth, I forget the name of you can download.
Yeah, you got it. It's an SSL certificate. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that SSL
Yes.
stands for something security-wise. There is a fee involved with it, but it's probably worth it at this point in the, in the web world we live in. You want to invest in your website just like you would in your business, having an alarm system. Think of it that way.
And sites can be running slow if there's a lot of information on your site or if it's an older site. But really, it's just when you're using it, check the navigability, check how easy it is to navigate the website yourself. And you can get, board and other staff members to test it out as well. Because not only is it just, is it running slow or is the site secure, but also is it easy to navigate? Because you might not interpret it that way if you're on it every day and you know where everything is on your website. But if someone is searching your organization for the first time and they're looking at your website, it might be confusing for them if they're not familiar with it. But then there are a lot of ways to drive traffic to your website, and many of them are free. When you have, social media accounts, you can always link back to your website on social media. Channels like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, you can directly link to your website in captions. So always recommend doing that. And other social media accounts like Instagram, you can't put links in the captions, but there are tools that you can download to your Instagram, like Campsite, where you can incorporate that connection to your website. So if you have a big presence on Instagram or you're trying to build your Instagram, I'd recommend checking out a tool like Campsite. So there's a lot of little free tools out there that can just help you strengthen social media and tie it back to your website if it isn't already. Have that easy connection like something like Facebook might have. And then obviously,
Jamison, Victoria Dow from the library just brought up a good point, and I'd love for you and Beth to talk about it. How do you make sure that your website is good also on tablets and different cell phones? How can you do that?
That can be a little tricky, especially because a lot of older websites were created to be used on computers. So yes, if you go to some older websites and some newer ones too, it kind of cuts off if you're on your phone, or it might be harder to navigate through. But in a lot of website editing tools and functions, there are options to view the website like you would on a mobile device. So that's one way to kind of look at it. And also a lot of times if I'm editing a website, I'll just check it out on my phone. Some web designer or website building tools like WordPress are very easy to translate between computers and laptops and phones. So there really isn't that many issues. Different ones might present more concerns, and it might also, you might just have to decide if your audience is more computer-based or more phone-based. Like if you have an older audience, maybe they're using tablets and phones more. So you might want to tailor your website for them. But if you have a younger audience, or you just know your audience is accessing your website through their phone, you might want to tailor it through them. And you can know that information by checking your analytics. So if you see your analytics and 90% of your audience is using their phone, then you might have to maybe revamp your website and make it more phone friendly. But if you see that 90% of users are using your computer, and maybe it's not so great to see on your phone, it might not be as important to you because they're using their computer anyway. And a lot of times tablets function similarly to phones, while like bigger tablets function similarly to computers. So the tablet kind of flips between the two. But again, if you look at your analytics, you can kind of see if that should be a big concern for your organization or not. And it also depends on what, website building tool you're using as well.
Hey, Jamison, I think on our analytics last time we looked, or maybe the first time we looked, I don't know, I was really surprised because stupid me thought that, oh, so many people are using their phones or their computers. And didn't we find out that a really large proportion of ours were using tablets?
Yeah,
We did a kooky thing with the analytics, which totally floored me.
Yeah, and which was great for us to know. And if a lot of users are using tablets, it might be, well, again, if you have a tablet, check your website on your tablet and see if it is user-friendly. And if it's not, you might have to explore maybe other options or how to make your website more friendly for a tablet. But again, tablets a lot of times function similarly to phones, or if they're a bigger screen, they function similarly to computers, meaning it kind of presents itself like you would if you were looking on a computer. But that was an interesting thing for us to know. And so that's why looking at analytics can be very useful, even just for your website design. And then this is just like a small little, pro tip. This has to do with Google. So if you haven't already, we recommend creating a free Google My Business listing for your organization. And obviously, we're all nonprofits, so we're not businesses, but it falls under that category. So pretty much, again, this is just kind of a side note, but pretty much that means that if someone Googles your organization, if someone Googles Chester County Community Foundation, a little box comes up at the side of your screen with pictures of your organization. I'm sure you've seen it when you've Googled restaurants and stuff, your hours, your address. So that kind of just makes it very easy for people to access information about your nonprofit without them even necessarily going to your website yet. So you can go to Google My Business, check if your organization is already listed, and it's very easy to list your organization if it isn't already. And we have more information about that in the resources page too, because I just want to touch on that for a second. But very easy to do and highly recommend, because most of your users are getting to your website by Googling your nonprofit's name, or they could Google nonprofits in Westchester or volunteering in Chester County. So you want to make sure that your organization pops up. And it also adds some credibility as well, because if they see the listing on Google, then it kind of, again, adds credibility to your organization, and they might be more likely to actually go to your website and, pursue whatever they were looking for through your organization.
All right,
And there's
that's stupid. I never knew about Google My Business, and I just looked it up, and it just pops right up. How many of us have a Google My Business account already? Can we do some clapping hands or something? Malcolm, come on. Do people have one? Put your hands up if you have one.
I will say.
Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, thank you, Margaret. I think Lori. Clap away. Les. Okay. I didn't know that we had one. Sorry, I didn't even know it was out there. Yes.
I mean, I didn't know much about it until I went to a webinar about it. And we had one, but that prompted me to update our Google listing, because you also want to update it with hours, especially if your hours are different because of COVID. People don't want to see your website, see Google, and see that, oh, Chester County Community Foundation, or we're open, but say your nonprofit is virtual now, a remote. They don't want to see your nonprofit is open 9 to 5, and they go to there and it's closed. They might put kind of a, turn them off from you or whatever. So it's kind of updating that information too, because again, a lot of people will just Google your organization, see your address, see your phone number, and click it right from then without even going to your website. So keep it updated and just check to see if you have one already. Because again, I didn't know that we had one already, all set up. So it's good to check and keep it updated. And there are a lot of other free online directories through the chambers, through Yelp, through news websites that you can also list your website on, and link to web pages for event listings and stuff as well. So there's a lot of free resources to get your website in front of people's eyes.
All right, Jamison, I'm going to interrupt again. You actually
Mhm.
said something about the chambers. Chambers, we got some chambers on this call. How do you help your nonprofit members with, I mean, linking to your websites and all that? Online directories? Do you link our websites? I don't even know. Lori, Cheryl?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer. We do. You have a mini web page. All our members have a mini web page.
Well, thanks,
So
Kristen. Yeah.
that can be linked. Anytime you have an event as part of membership, you can add that to our calendar. And any of that information goes directly back to you. We just promote it. So that's how we try to support.
What about in Oxford, with Christine or with Cheryl in Southern Chester County? What do the chambers
We
do?
have an online directory on our website that links directly to our nonprofit members' websites.
Yep, we have the same thing.
Good. Well, thank you. We appreciate the link, so link back.
And analytics, we'll talk about this a little later. Analytics track how traffic is being driven to your website, like Beth mentioned earlier. And a lot of times in our analytics, we'll see other community foundations or other nonprofits or philanthropic organizations' websites as a way that users have gotten to our website, meaning that they've linked to our website, they click on that link and then access us. So these ways of like the directories or just kind of linking resources, nonprofits in the area, people actually use them and they have a payoff. At least they have for us. I'm sure they would have for you as well. So take advantage of that. If you have the time and the resources, it's definitely, it's worth it. And I believe that, can you flip to the next slide now, Beth?
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. And I just wanted to open the conversation up before we go too in depth into how we track and record our analytics, to see how anyone else on the call does. If anyone is currently tracking website analytics, what tools are you guys using? How are you reporting? Who are you reporting to? Would anyone like to share their experience with analytics? Or maybe just you've tried it and it didn't work out for you originally, so questions you might have about it before we dive any deeper?
Well, this is Malcolm, and if I can say, the analytics gave us a wide-eyed look at how we were doing. We shifted the strategy of the website for the Westchester Business Improvement District from being just kind of an informational website to being a website that talked about events, and we actually loaded events 12 months out on the home page. And when the very day we did that and launched that, we began seeing the analytics go up until it got to about 1,000 users per day. Now it's fallen back recently, last year or two because of social media. But analytics told us what people wanted to see on our website. And it turned out they wanted to know what was happening downtown, where to shop, where to eat, and where to park.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. And we definitely had a similar experience after honing in on our analytics, seeing the numbers shoot up, because it can be worth it. Would anyone else?
Margaret McGee has some ideas.
Okay.
No, not many, but
No, come on.
So one of our board members tracks our analytics for us. And we have been able to monitor where people are going to on our website. And that's been helpful for us in knowing more about what programs we should be offering, where the client's interests lie. We're also able to track the number of people that are seeing our social media and opening things. And so that all comes back and tells us that, this approach is working for us. we were able to get a Google ad grant, and that has also been helpful. I think it's a $10,000 yearly grant. And so even though I'm not the person that's doing it, that information is filtering back to us and helpful.
That's great to hear.
That wasn't the Google ad grant folks texting you right now, were they, Margaret?
No, it was an annoying child.
Oh, I've got none of those. So the Google ad grant, you just applied for it and they electronically sent it over so that you can, the ad grant is so that you can place advertisements on Google.
Exactly. And the tough thing for a small nonprofit is we're competing with much larger organizations with larger budgets, but it's something, and it's not costing us anything.
Good, good.
So,
Anybody else doing any tracking? I think I'm hearing a little theme about finding a board member who's a little bit of a data geek to try to just fool around online with stuff. It's either that or a young student, but I haven't. Anybody else doing tracking? Carrie, what do you got?
we're set up to track quarterly. So it keeps it under control that we're not having to do it all the time, but we still get a good oversight every quarter of, visitors to the website and our social media. How many, engagements do we have? How many click-throughs? So we have all that laid out, which I have to tell you, that was a good idea somebody gave me to say, hey, find a board member to do that.
I was gonna say, do you do it now yourself or have you not found your board member yet?
No, I never thought to utilize a board member. So I do it and my staff helps me do it. So and we're only doing it on the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not overwhelming, but.
And that's and there's no right timeline to do it. If you have the resources and you have a set marketing team or even a set, analytics or social media person who can do it more frequently, that's great. But if you don't have the time or resources, just doing it every once in a while, just to kind of track your progress is also wonderful as well. We tend to do it on a monthly basis.
The quarterly helps you year over year, so you can
Yes.
sort of see things over time. Yeah.
And we share it with every time the marketing committee meets, it gets shared, but it only gets shared at the executive committee level if there's something outstanding or, a deviation or a variance that we want to make sure they're aware of.
Oh, we actually ended up sharing it with the full board because they were so interested in it at first. And then after the second or third sharing, they get that everything's fine. And so now maybe once a year, I guess we share it with the board. But it was like some mystery when we started because it was just such a hidden sense of this black box that everything's going into the social media and what's the impact. So it's interesting that as a staff, we actually look at it monthly, but maybe with the board now it's once a year or not. Yeah. Anybody else doing any tracking or analytics?
Hi, I'm Aria Willerski. I'm from the Downingtown CTC, Community Sector.
Hi, Aria.
Hi, and I am relatively new-ish to their organization. I joined them in April, but we report every month to our board, and our executive director obviously is part of that. And we've learned a lot about our social media and kind of the ups and downs of social media and when we are seeing the most engagement and when we are seeing, people not really paying attention to things. So it's been a learning process, but I really think that the social media analytics as well as the website analytics have been very beneficial for us.
How did you learn to do the tracking and the analytics?
I have, my background is in marketing and public relations. So I have background from college, thankfully. So I have a lot of background with that, but we kind of overhauled some things and we started an Instagram and all of that good stuff. So
good. Glad to hear it.
Okay.
Hi. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, Leslie Relke with the Chester County Economic Development Council.
Good.
We actually use analytics as sort of a research tool to be a baseline for a change in culture shift. When I came on board, so many of our initiatives already had strong web identities and presence in social media presence, that it was actually diluting what the organization does. People might know an iTag or a Get, our girls program, but they weren't necessarily connecting it back to us. So now finally in my 7th year there, we finally have like the timing and the funding and the expertise that we're doing a major overhaul of a number of the websites. And now they're going to become subdomains of our main site. So you're not leaving and going off to another web page. And I was having to run analytics for, I think it was like 15 different websites and like 40 different, social media accounts across platforms. So they're still keeping their social media, but everything will be like, ccedcpa.com / then whatever it is. Now it's a rollout over several years, but just consolidating it so we can have it. It's like, we were getting drop off where they might go to another website, but if they originated there, that wasn't necessarily the back traffic to us. So for us now, everything will be even one report, in the long term. So that'll be just a nightmare logistically. We'll be gone. So that'll be fabulous.
It's interesting to see how things just keep growing and growing sort of organically, and then you go, wait a second, it just went out of control. So pulling it back, but to consolidate that is going to be, you'll be joyful in 2 years when you get it all consolidated. It's a good problem to have.
Leslie, you bring up a good point. As much as you can keep on your website, the better. And then also, this is not on the analytics topic, but I'm sure you want to make sure all those websites are secure, that you're renewing the HTMLs. There's so much involved with different sites that if you're able to put them all under one umbrella, it's only going to help your organization grow faster and more streamlined.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just going to put a small plug in. I mean, I'm, at this point in my career, you're never too, old to learn something. I actually went back last year and got my integrated digital marketing certificate from Penn State Great Valley. It's a 9-month program that it's 3 different modules. And I've met like a lot of great people through there. So just from expanding the network with other people who do, similar things, but it might be across industries and stuff. And it was a way to really do a deep dive into learning more about all of this.
Well,
Integrated digital marketing Penn State Great Valley certificate program online now?
And, well, I don't know how they're doing it now. And I mean, I started last fall and it wrapped up in February, right as COVID was hitting. So it was 1 night a week for, it was like 2.5, 3 hours or something. I'm sure they moved to an online, virtual format, but would have been easier for me than having to schlep all the way over there. But it's a really great program.
I love it. Good. Thank you for that referral. See what we'll be signing up for.
That's great.
Okay.
Onward. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for sharing. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Community Foundation's strategy and how we track our website analytics. So like Beth mentioned, we met with the Philadelphia Art Museum, and one of the pieces of advice they gave us was, before you even start going into a deep dive with your analytics, figure out what questions you want answered through your analytics. So some of the questions we really wanted to answer was which pages are most popular, and that can allow us to figure out which pages we should really focus on updating and putting the best content we can on. How do users find us, meaning how are users directed to our website, whether through Google, Facebook, MailChimp, and that can allow you to figure out, well, social media people are being directed through Facebook, so I should really focus on strengthening our presence on Facebook, or maybe a lot of people are getting to you through MailChimp or other email tools. So like, okay, email is really important for us. So kind of figuring out where that lies with your group. And also comparing, we also wanted to see how our growth has been. So how much we have grown in the past years. So, and these are all, we use Google Data Studio, like we mentioned before. So all of these questions we were able to turn into graphs and answer through the analytics. So particularly the comparing our website performance this year to last year's, which is the bottom graph there, is a very great visual tool to use, not only for ourselves, but when we show it to board and other staff members. It just shows how much you've grown on your website, and it's kind of a justification for more digital marketing and putting stress towards, just strengthening your online presence.
Can you guys see it?
Yeah, Beth just pulled up our website analytics, our Google Data Studio dashboard. And again, this dashboard is very customizable. You can see we have our colors in there. You can put your logo in if you wanted to make it look nice when you present it to the board. And you can tailor the age, the date range. And this gives you exact values. And you can see that, compared to last year, it's a couple, I think it's like 6,000 more hits. And that just shows you how much growth your website has had. And it kind of, again, justification for putting more efforts towards digital, marketing and strengthening your website. And there's a lot of different graphs you can set up through Google Data Studio. These are just the ones that worked for us and that we felt were best represent the data. But there's so much information that you can present and many different ways that you can present it. Many different graphs and different ways of visually presenting it on that particular tool. And when we started using Google Data Studio, again, like we mentioned, Dave Elderkin just messed around with it for a little bit, kind of became familiar with the tool, and then showed it to me and Beth. And then once we kind of got the hang of it, we were able to further pick out which data we wanted to present and figure out which ways we wanted to present it, and again, customize it for our branding. And Steph just put it in the chat, and we have more information about Data Studio in the resources too. If any of you have not really approached analytics before, definitely a great tool that we would recommend. And so that information that we collect, like Karen mentioned, we present it to the staff on a monthly basis, just kind of as a heads up, like this is how our website is continuing to grow. We like to mention which web pages are seeing a lot of traffic. So like around scholarship season, obviously our scholarship web page was having a lot of hits. Around this season, like the holiday season, season of giving, our volunteer opportunities web page gets a lot of hits. And this year that actually prompted us to kind of update that web page because we saw there was a lot of hits there. So we wanted to make sure that the information was up to date for people to be connected to other nonprofits to volunteer at. So those kind of tools can, again, just prompt you to make sure the information that your audience is is most likely to access is as up to date as possible. So that's, and any questions about Data Studio or any of the graphs or any of website analytics? Because I think we're going to touch on social media analytics next. I want to make sure we cover any questions that there might be.
What was your learning curve with the Google's Data Studio, or I can't even say it right now. What was your learning curve with trying to, you taught yourself, right?
Well, Dave explored first. So Dave Elderkin, the board member, he explored first. He became pretty comfortable with it, which again, if you have someone who's kind of more techie, get them to kind of figure it out first. And then he explained it to me and Beth and kind of showed us what he came up with. And his was just kind of like messing around with how to put in graphs and how to change data input. So kind of just figuring out the system. And once me and Beth kind of were introduced to it and started messing around with it, really it was just, I just kind of took one day for like an hour and was just kind of trying out new things. Again, I wasn't trying to like make anything pretty. I was just trying to figure out how different functions work. And YouTube and Google in that instance are your best friend too. If I couldn't figure something out, I would just Google it. But once you really become comfortable with messing around with the graphs and figuring out which graphs work best for you and how best to present the data for you, it's very easy to use. And someone, I think, just asked if Google Data Studio is free. Yeah, I think you just log in with your Gmail account. Mm-hmm. So as long as you have a Gmail account, which I'm sure, and you can make one then it's free to use. And again, it's a giant it's a giant tool, and the free version that we've been using has worked great for us too. And it's also one of those things where every couple of months, go back into it, mess around with it for a little longer and see if there's any better ways to present the data. Because again, it's a lot of information to take in. So try not to become overwhelmed. And if you see a graph that works for you, just work with it until you have more time to maybe fix it up more. So it's always a learning curve, I would say, like anything involving technology, it's always a learning curve because there's always improvements that they put out for these kind of tools.
And if I could jump in, it is a Google tool, so it's very user-friendly. And there's a lot of things that you've probably seen before if you've ever used something like SurveyMonkey, where it gives you options to present different types of graphs, like a bar graph or a pie chart. It has the same type of compatibility. And it also has a lot of similarities to like Microsoft Word, where you can copy something. So it might look intimidating at first, but it's like using Google Analytics, but it's just cutting down on all of the analytics and just presenting the ones that you want to show, if that makes sense.
Hey, Beth, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Dave Harris here. You know, a lot of nonprofits I've worked with, you know, you get a report to the board, which I've been on the boards, and, you know, you get some really nice numbers and graphs and everything. And it seems to be a lot of times that the end game for all of this is to just get a report to the board. What I'm really curious about is, given these kinds of analysis and the results that come out of that, what are the actions that you find yourselves taking to raise more money, better impact your constituency, make a difference in people's lives, yada, yada, yada? How does all this translate into really changing strategy or modifying your strategy and action to make a greater impact?
Well, Dave, you bring up a great point, which is all these analytics, all this data we're measuring is just a tool, but it doesn't bring you to any sort of solution. It has to be part of a bigger strategy. So I would encourage your, you know, whether it's the marketing team or the technology team who's reviewing the data, to share it with other parts of the organization so they can work together to use that data appropriately. So for example, when Jamison said we saw a lot of information on the scholarship page, we want to work with our team who's uploading scholarships, making sure those scholarships are up to date, making sure that all that information is reaching the students in need and reaching the schools who are distributing the information to the students. It's a comprehensive process, and I can't give you a one-size-fits-all answer, but it's really just the first step. We have to then make decisions, like if those graphs are all going downward, let's say, you know, I think someone mentioned it earlier, you're going to see ebbs and flows. That's natural. On the weekends, we see a lot of downward spirals on our graphs, and on the weekdays, they go up. So we know that we're doing well, but if they're doing poorly, we have to say, why are they doing poorly? And then we have to make changes to our strategy. So maybe we have to put out different types of content, and maybe we have to put out different information, or maybe we've been asking people for too many things and we need to stop being in front of people's faces for a little bit. So it takes a conversation and a little bit of trial and error to get to that right answer, but it's just the first step to start measuring trends. And I hope that's a helpful starting point.
Yeah, I just have encouraged, you know, if you're into that kind of stuff, to just ask kind of so what? You know, you sit there and listen.
I think, yeah.
So what? What are we going to do now as a result of that? What have we learned that makes our organization more impactful and a better organization for everybody?
What was great, and Malcolm and Margaret mentioned it earlier, was that they used their analytics to actually build their website differently and make some different decisions. So it can be a helpful tool there. And I know Jamison mentioned it earlier, just looking and seeing how people are coming to your website and making sure that the information is easy for them to read, easy for them to navigate. It might be as easy as just building your brand and communicating with your constituents.
Dave, I'm going to add another layer to their answer that I found interesting. Last spring, when we really started to get more involved as a community foundation in trying to put our philanthropy into action, we started some social justice pages, but that was kind of dicey for us, actually. The Philadelphia Foundation is known for social justice, but here in Chester County, we got to be very careful with it. We have to be Chester County nice overlay on our social justice when it comes to demonstrations and things like that. So Jamison worked up some beautiful social justice stuff, and we really looked carefully at the analytics to see, was it getting any attention? And it turns out it was getting a lot of attention, most of it positive for us. And so we actually kept developing it, put a veneer over some of it that was getting some negative stuff that wasn't really helping to illuminate people's thinking. So using the analytics and seeing where people were going on the pages and what they were reacting to helped us shape the website version of the social justice campaign, as well as then what we did on the social media side. So we were pretty looking at that every other day just to keep developing something that was a very chancy for us to start to dive into.
And I think that definitely raises another component. Obviously, this social justice concerns were connected to COVID, but just COVID, we're all digital right now. So if there's any time that you should be focusing on your analytics, if you have the resources right now, it's now, since everyone's online. And we also kind of use, I think, the analytics as a justification, because sometimes people question social media or question, why do we need to spend time on social media? Why do we need to spend time on a website? It's the in-person connections that matter. And yes, they obviously do have maybe more of an impact, meaning a major donor in person than posting on social media. But analytics allows you to see how people are directed from social media to your website, maybe to purchase a ticket for an event, or to donate to your website, or to sign up for a program. And you can even track, those links. So you can see, oh, someone from Facebook went to our donate page, So it allows you to kind of show, other people in your organizations that these tools matter for your nonprofit, if they do. Maybe social media isn't as big of a tool for your group, but that's just, an example. But speaking of social media, I think we're gonna start talking about social media analytics now. So I'll turn it back over to Beth.
Great. Yes, thank you, Jamison. This might seem a little bit redundant because social media analytics are probably not all that different in a sense than your Google Analytics. It's just another tool and another way to measure your traffic, your engagement, your impressions, likes, comments, shares, that kind of thing. But really, your social media will hopefully link back to your website where, like we said earlier, that's like your home address. This is just another place for you to share that same message that you're already putting out there in all of your materials and keeping your branding consistent. So let's just start, social media in general. There's a ton of different platforms out there, and the ones that your organization uses just need to make sense for you. They don't necessarily need to be what the community foundation uses. So you have to figure out what you want to do with your social media. Do you want to grow followers, build engagements, get people to visit your website or come to an event? We call that your call to action in a sense. And you might have many different call to actions depending on the campaign going on at that time. After you've done that first step, I would recommend you begin tracking your analytics, kind of like the way you saw in Google Analytics, the way that Google tracks it. Different social media platforms track it as well. And this is where, if you use a platform tool, I'm sorry, it might sound a little technical here. If you're using a social media marketing tool like Hootsuite for all of your social media, Hootsuite will report your analytics for you. But if you're mostly using specific tools, for example, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, you would sign into that social media channel and you would find the browsing tool called Insight Analytics. And there you'll be able to track your analytics, and you might even get a report that you can download. Or in our case, as I'll show you in a little bit, you might get information that you need, and you can track it in your own personal way so you can compare all the various platforms. So like everything else, there's no one size fits all to this. But one of the reasons why it's important to use this tracking system for your social media is just to bring it back, to use this data to make good decisions. So once you're tracking your data, you can tell what time of day should I post, what gets the most engagement, what type of content should I post, how often should I post, just thinking of ways to meet your goals based on what your analytics are telling you. So I just have a little example here. We know that videos are really engaging. They tend to be more engaging than just words. Same for pictures. So you probably know this already, but you should probably post content with pictures and videos when you can, because it's going to help you build views. If you're looking to build engagement, like people commenting and liking and sharing, then something like a contest would be a good idea, or a Facebook Live. There's lots of things you can do, lots of research out there on the internet. I think I even might have listed some in the resources section. Just knowing what your call to action is and how to successfully achieve your call to action and try to achieve those goals. So I would love it if anyone has any stories to share before we get into our specific social media tracking system. What social media channels are you guys using? What are you using to track? What kind of decision making goes into things that you do when you're successful or you're not successful? And again, just curious who you guys are sharing these analytics with. So if anyone wants to unmute themselves, would love to hear from you. And if no one is tracking their social media analytics, I want to know why not. All right. Well.
All right. So I'm going to say that from the Community Foundation side, I found it fascinating to take a look at the social media analytics because I hate social media. So I finally decided to look at Facebook and then Instagram for my nieces and nephews, and then LinkedIn for business purposes. And what I found when we looked at our analytics is that professional advisors are our best LinkedIn market. And so a lot of the messages we put on LinkedIn are very different from the messages I think we position under Facebook and Instagram. And we had a board member who really wanted us to push on Instagram. And it was interesting because we weren't sure if we should. So the analytics helped us to take a look at that. And actually, Beth and Jamison, you can talk about that more than I do because you have more of the details. But you decide social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and tweeting based on the analytics, what to push and what not for different target markets, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way to measure return on investment, like not in dollar terms, but in terms of how much time we're spending targeting those messages and are they the right target market, like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
We at Family Service, we track the analytics for the social media. And I think that a really important piece should just be noted is I mean, they're all tools, obviously. So knowing what use for each tool, where Instagram, you're going to have a different utility than you would a LinkedIn or a Twitter. I found that Twitter for us is just kind of pointless because I think that I think it's better served for advocacy groups where you're maybe looking to do political action or you're really trying to get around an event. And then Instagram, I think, is the best for obviously high quality pictures. And people go there for interesting content, whereas Facebook, you get a little bit more. You get articles, you can get pictures, you can get videos, you can get comments, all those sort of things. So I think knowing what platform is best used for, then I think that will really help your content. And then also being able to match up what got the best engagement for the analytics. And you can see, so I know for us, whenever we post a picture of an employee or someone with a really nice, vibrant picture of a face that people know, we always get really great engagement because someone behind the screen says, I know that person, I want to engage. So I think that it's really helpful not just to look at the analytics, but say, what's the content, what platform, and then also what kind of engagement did you get? And then I know with the algorithms, they change so much. It seems like month to month on the different sites. So from what I understand, the more paid advertisements and paid promotional stuff is going to get pushed on Facebook and Instagram these days, whereas LinkedIn is a little bit more organic, where you don't have to have the paid as much. So I think it's a tough game because you have to know how the companies are changing things, because you could have a really high following, right? But a lot of people might not see your your posts every day. So making sure it might be better off to not post as much, but to have really high quality, engaging posts. So I think it's really hard to see, and finding someone that can track these things is important, even if it's on a smaller scale.
I have a question.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, sure.
So we currently are running a raffle on Instagram, and or selling raffle tickets on Instagram. And one of the things that we've done to try and spread the word is to request that our board members share this with their circle of contacts. And I cannot get that to happen. Does anyone have any suggestions?
I do.
And the irony here is that the older board members that you would think might be more reluctant or unsure have done it. It's the younger people. And I just don't understand why not. It's a click.
Well, let's see if anyone else on this conversation has any thoughts, because you said you're sharing your contest and it's strictly on Instagram?
Facebook too.
On Facebook, okay. Does anyone have any good suggestions? If not, I'm happy to jump in. Wow.
I guess it depends on like the graphics you're using, because I know like with younger groups, the aesthetic of like what they're posting really matters to them, and like what they're sharing really matters to them, and like their own feeds. So I think like sharing.
I wish I could show you, because we actually had the graphics created by a younger person. I think she did an amazing job. There are photographs. It's what we're doing is we're raffling off purses that we had acquired for a designer bag bingo. And so there are wonderful photographs of these purses. And I mean, it's just all very, I would say, high quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether they don't want to impose upon their friends to purchase things. I mean, I'm really stuck.
I think sometimes people like to keep social media accounts very private, but that depends on the account too. Like they might be hesitant maybe to share on Instagram because it's more picture based. It's more like, again, high quality. I mean, they're high quality pictures, but again, if they're younger, they might like to follow a certain aesthetic, or, you know, might take their Instagram more seriously. Or on as an account like Facebook, where you're sharing art, you can share articles every 10 minutes, and or LinkedIn, where it's more professional. But we've also, I mean, again, you mentioned that a lot of your younger board members are the people who are hesitant, but we've also found that some of our board members just didn't know how to do this stuff. Even if they had LinkedIn, even if they had Facebook, they just didn't know how to like, how to share, how to comment. So we've had multiple instances where we just sat someone down and we're like, this is how you work LinkedIn. This is how you comment. If you see us, comment and share. And they're like, okay, I just didn't know how to do that. So I don't know if you've done that or not, but that's very helpful for us too.
Yeah, we have done it, and done it multiple times. And I've actually asked the board chair to send a note out to people to encourage them to do it. I think I just need to directly ask them what the reluctance is.
Mm-hmm.
And just so that we can get to the bottom of it, because it's so frustrating when you spend that kind of time on creating a campaign and your own board isn't supporting it.
I agree with you. Sometimes the best solution is the direct solution. Some of the content that we get asked to share, which might not work in this case, I recognize, but when you're able to tag somebody in the caption, then they get notified. So if you can tag different people or different organizations, of course with their permission, you don't want to go nuts here. They will get notified, and they can easily share, at least from Facebook. Something else that I recommend, and we get requests like this a lot, is if you provide someone with a graphic and a draft caption, you really make it easy for them. You're giving them all the tools they need. All they need to do is post it.
Right.
So
I think I'm going to find a way to send this to you because I would welcome your feedback on what we've done. I think they've done an excellent job, and which is why I'm so frustrated. But I'll get it to you.
And you might also want to consider, you know, in addition to your social campaigns, just doing an old-fashioned e-blast. And
we've done that.
And then, but like, have you given like Venmo as an option or other payment options? Okay.
it sounds like you've got it all covered. And I know it's frustrating to not have 100% participation, but sometimes you're not going to get that with your full board. And
there will be penalties.
Hopefully they bring something else to the table if they can't do this one thing. But yeah, that's a valid concern. I think we've all experienced stuff like that. Your board is your biggest asset. So if they're not participating in your social media, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, Margaret, I'm looking at it right now, and it's really pretty bags and lots of nice design.
Thank
and I see the likes are low on it. But it could be that it's confusing, that people don't, I don't know, that they don't know what it is. You also just have bags and not faces. So maybe it breaks the whole rule about showing the bags.
Right, we're showing the bags which we're raffling off.
Yeah, I think that it's a complex concept, actually, to tell you the truth. You see bags and I'm wondering if they're having problems with trying to figure out the execution of it. Because even Fred or somebody just asked, you know, how do you buy them? So it might just be a confusing concept, but it's pretty.
All right, that's good to know. There should be a link there to buy the raffle tickets.
So I pressed on the link and it's spinning the whole time you've been talking, and I still haven't been able to get through it.
I will, thank you.
Yeah.
That's important for me to hear, and I will get to the bottom of it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
That's good. So maybe tomorrow someone can do a video holding the bag and explaining what to do and answer all the questions. And even if it's low budget,
a good suggestion.
Yeah, even if it's low budget, people do respond to videos, so maybe that'll help. But
all right, thank you for that.
All right. Well, I'm aware of timing here. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on social media channels, best practices? If not, I'm happy to share ours with you, just a quick overview.
Why don't we do a quick overview, and then we should leave by 5:15, so we have 5 minutes left.
All righty.
Thanks.
So on our social media tracking, if I can just pull up real quick on our Facebook page itself. Can you see my Facebook insights?
Yep.
Okay, so this might be a little small here. Like I said, we go on our Facebook channel and we look and review and toggle the date range so we can see our page views, our previews, impressions, likes, all these things that we like to track. And then we put them into a format that we can compare on various platforms. So on Facebook here, we're measuring monthly. You can see I only went up to August here. So we can look at all these different categories on all these different platforms. So we got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And each platform is measuring different areas, and they might be calling them different things. So that's why this might look more confusing than yours might look. Let's say you're just measuring on Facebook. That's fine. You have to just figure out what areas on Facebook you want to measure, and you got to find a way to do it. Basically, it gives you up to 28 days. So you could do it once a week, you could do it once a month. And then you can compare month to month how many page views you have, how many likes you have, how many unlikes you have. And they're not going to go up all the time, but you can make decisions based on whether they've gone up or down. You can also measure your effectiveness, which is not a mathematical term. It's something that we've kind of come up with, which is the reach of your posts divided by the number of posts. So that's trying to capture how much time you've spent versus how many eyeballs have seen your content. And that, I think Tyler mentioned earlier, like Twitter wasn't so effective for his organization. And I think it's basically the same for us in the sense that we've taken all those messages, we tried to cut them down to the right number of characters, and they're just not reaching as many people for the amount of times that we're posting. So our decision was, let's post less on Twitter. If we had more bandwidth and more resources and staff, our solution might have been, let's post more on Twitter, but let's target it more to our market on Twitter, which might be more media outlets and might be more advocacy organizations. So there's a lot of things you can do with this, a lot of decisions you can make, and a lot of it is trial and error, which is why it's good to look at it over a period of time and compare.
Hey, Beth.
Yes.
Quick question. How do you get to the insights area on your organization's Facebook page?
That is a good question here. So if you're on your Facebook page,
yep,
there should be some toolbars on the left-hand side where you can, and if you're looking at it on your desktop versus your mobile device, it's going to be a little different here. There's something on the left-hand side called Insights, and it looks like a graph.
Yeah, I'm on our website right now and I don't see that.
So it is possible that your Facebook is not the same up-to-date version of mine, and it might be a toolbar in this area of your Facebook page where you hit the More button.
Okay.
And it might be something I can help you with maybe after this call, or if you wanted to do a Zoom with me, you could kind of screen share with me.
Tell you what, I'll hang on after everybody's done, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem. Okay, let me figure out how to get back to our presentation. Sorry about that. But that's a good question. Everyone's page kind of looks a little bit different, so it might make it challenging. But once you find it, it's easy. And same thing for like some of these categories. Sometimes Facebook changes the name of what they're measuring here, but it's I promise you not too bad once you're in a habit. So what is our strategy here? We set some goals with our social media analytics, just like we did with our Google Analytics, to answer a few questions. We want to know how many followers we're getting on each of our platforms. It was interesting to see, Karen mentioned earlier, we weren't on Instagram until maybe a year and a half ago. Instagram is actually where we're growing the fastest. It's probably because it's growing faster than a lot of these other more established platforms. So we feel like we're getting a lot of return on investment there. We want to measure how effective our posts are so we can decide which platforms to spend more time on and which to spend less time on. We can tailor our strategy a little bit. So right now we're really focused on YouTube, which is not maybe a traditional social media platform, but since everyone's home in the pandemic, they're spending time watching videos, and we want to have a presence on YouTube and grow our audience. And just so you guys know, we track all of these platforms monthly, except for Instagram. I don't know why. Instagram is owned by Facebook, but they report weekly. So we do check those numbers weekly. And we report it to the board and staff a few times a year, maybe quarterly, maybe just, we were doing it more so in the spring when our platforms were growing so quickly during the height of the pandemic. So we can sum up real quick. I wanted to turn this over to Jamison just for a quick success story about our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. We just want to touch on this again since a lot of people are putting out videos. This is just one of the examples, which are our virtual 26th annual meeting, which happened in October, and just kind of showing you the analytics on YouTube. So Beth, if you can flip to the next slide. So our annual meeting was originally live streamed. So on YouTube, you can have live stream videos and just traditionally uploaded videos. So, but for live stream videos, you still get analytics. So you can still see how many people view your video, what is the watch time. And I think the most interesting part is the traffic source. So you can see how people have accessed your video. And again, a lot of people access the website. So we know that having updated information on our website is very important. A lot of people access this live stream through our social media and email marketing. And since this is one of our established events of the year, it's a really good resource to be able to track analytics in a digital platform. Again, just showing you a little bit of the YouTube analytics. And if you go to the next slide, so for live stream videos, there's slightly less analytics than a traditionally uploaded video, So in addition to the live stream, we also just uploaded the video to YouTube, and we cut some of the live stream out because it had additional content to it. And so for regularly uploaded videos, one of the coolest parts I think for YouTube is it compares your current, like the video you uploaded, the performance of that video to the other videos on your channel. And you can use that tool, and again, since videos are so important right now, you can use that tool to see what kind of videos resonate most with your audience. Maybe it's short skits, maybe it's longer interviews. Just kind of figuring out which content your audience is gravitating towards, and then you can make similar content and get more views and just build your YouTube channel if that's something you're interested in. And another little pro tip as well, Google Data Studio actually connects to YouTube, so you can have your YouTube analytics appear on that tool as well. But there's also a lot of great things for YouTube. So if you're starting to explore videos, because I'm sure a lot of you might have tested the waters with that, definitely look at the analytics on YouTube, because they definitely have some insights to them. And that's kind of the end of our presentation for today. And the next slide, we mentioned a ton of stuff in this presentation. So this has all of the resources, you know, about Data Studio, about social media tools, and the analytics terms, and all of that good stuff. So take a look, definitely, if you're interested in any of these topics, for a deeper dive on some of them.
Hey, Jamison, you just looked at the YouTube link. You got the last question from Laura. Thanks, Tyler. It's the YouTube link, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I just looked at the last chat question.
Okay.
Oh,
asked and answered. Thank you.
Well, and also in relation to that question, for posting videos on Facebook, you can post a YouTube link, and then it would take you to your YouTube channel, so you get some hits not only on Facebook but also on YouTube. But traditionally on platforms like Facebook, videos that are on, so not external links, perform best. So if you're able to just upload the video regularly, like independently on Facebook, it might perform better than linking to it, like linking to the YouTube video. But we do both, because you also want to build your YouTube channel while also making sure that you're getting good engagement on the other social media platforms. But again, that's just depending on what works best for your organization, and if you have the resources to do that.
The most important thing is to cross-promote your content. So once you have great content, you don't want it to just die on one channel. So if you have great YouTube content, put it on Facebook, but know that it probably will do better if you put the video direct on Facebook. And then you just have to know some small things, like technical things. Like if you put that video on Instagram, it has to be a square, and it has to be all these specific things that might make it too tough. And if that's the case, just put it on Facebook, and it'll probably do really, really well.
Beth and Jamison, I'd like to thank you for a good presentation. I know that we are over time, so folks, if you have questions like Fred does, and you're welcome to stay on. We're going to come up with more topics for after the new year. So if you have things you want us to cover, please do not hesitate to put it in chat or send us an email or a message somehow. We'll get all kinds of topics up there. I wish you all a very, very healthy and safe holiday season. Thank you so much for everything we've done in this incredible 2020. And I am looking forward to seeing you all in 2021, to really see you all. So stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
Do well. Bye-bye.